welcome everyone back to the Learning Clinic on CKOU 96.7 FM. I'm your host Bob Kerwin, and you're listening to another edition of the Learning Clinic Meet the Candidates radio show. This afternoon I have Mike Bleskie, who is running for the position of council in Ward 11 in the studio. Mike, welcome back.
Welcome to. I'm thankful to be here.
And Mike, you're just finishing up at Cambrian, and you're actually coming to Laurentian next year, aren't you?
Yes, I am. Actually, I'm just finishing up my advanced diploma in public relations over at Cambrian, and finishing up my my time as the vice president of the Students Administrative Council there. I've been involved there for the past little while, and now that I'm transitioning over to Laurentian, it's providing me, some new opportunities to jump in and get involved in different places.
Yeah, so it's an interesting, and speaking of jumping in, getting involved, you're getting involved in municipal election campaign.
Absolutely.
So tell us a little bit, who is Mike Bleskie? The people in Ward 11 are going to be looking at the choices that they've got. Who is this Mike guy that is running?
Well, if you're looking for who Mike Bleskie is, and I hate talking about myself in the third person, but I would describe myself as just a young person with plenty of ideas, somebody that can cooperate with people around the table and bring those ideas from young people and really merge them into the ideas that the rest of the community has, bring that all together and hopefully provide a different perspective for Middle Lake and for New Sudbury as well.
And in terms of the young part, you do have experience in governance.
Being in student leadership for the past few years, it's really been an eye-opening experience.
Explain that. You in student leadership as what?
Well, the Students Administrative Council is one of 3 student governments over at Cambrian College. So there's SAC, which sort of acts as the catch-all. There's the Cambrian Native Students Association and the Cambrian Athletics Association, and all the students at the main campus of Cambrian are members of all 3. But in terms of what SAC does, we provide a variety of social opportunities and academic services that just complete the Cambrian experience. So regardless of what you're doing in your classes, you need to have a life outside of that and have a good work-life balance, or else you're never going to enjoy your time in post-secondary. And that's what our goal is. Our goal is to make sure that students are living the Cambrian experience, that they feel satisfied with their academic environment, with their social environment, and are able to enjoy their time. And there's many different ways that we do that. We operate the food bank for the college. We do all the social activities out of our student-owned student center pub, and that includes celebrity meet and greet events and DJ nights and those sorts of things to get people out. We have services for mature students. We have those services for students that are facing difficulties with teachers or grades that they felt were unfair. And you can really run the whole gamut of services that we can provide, and that's where I've been involved over the past while. And that's what you kind of expect out of the student government, is that support that you need to provide for students.
So you're really operating and you've really been involved in something that is, it's no different than what a city council would be overseeing in terms of the kind of services you're providing for the community at Cambrian.
Absolutely.
So you're dealing with the social aspect, you're dealing with recreation, you're dealing with things that they're not all that happy about, and you're trying to balance the academic and the social life of students so they enjoy the quality of life. It's very much like running a city.
Yeah, it is a microcosm of what a city council is like. I mean, obviously the services are much different. You're dealing with emergency services and basic infrastructure with city council, but the lessons that you learn in fiduciary duty and governance are pretty much the same principles. and I would dare say even the advocacy work that we are able to do for students, not only at Cambrian but across the province, really matches up with the kinds of ways that city councilors are expected to advocate on behalf of their residents. For example, we are a member of an organization called the College Student Alliance, which is a group of over 20 student governments from across the province, and we get together and we deal with issues such as tuition fees, such as international students, First Nation students, mental health especially has been a big focus of ours. And one of the most awesome experiences I've had has been to travel to Queen's Park to lobby directly to Kathleen Wynne, talk to her about the issues that students are facing transitioning from high school to post-secondary.
That must have been an interesting meeting then.
Oh, absolutely. It's a little nerve-wracking at first, considering you always think of yourself as a student first, and this is a strange place to find yourself on a May afternoon, but it was certainly a very fulfilling and rewarding experience.
It was no more nerve-wracking than listening to the drilling that's going on behind us. So hopefully the sound is not coming through. But
it'll pay off in the end.
Yeah, if you can get by that drilling, then you can get by anything.
Mm-hmm.
So I just wanted to bring up that whole experience thing, because quite often when people look at candidates for council, there's this wanting change, there's this wanting youth, there's this wanting age, and really regardless of what your age is, it's the experience you bring to the table. And I think you probably have more experience than a lot of the older people who are running for council, because you've actually been in a parallel situation where you've been, it's almost like it's a training ground for anyone who wants to get into a larger or I guess a more advanced governance system.
Everybody has their own life experiences, but I like to really think that mine stand out. And the student leadership that's come out of Cambrian over the past decade or so is just unbelievable. One of our past presidents is now working for the Conference Board of Canada, and before he was working as a research chair for Colleges Ontario. And we have people that are working as top real estate agents now, that are working in different sectors around all parts of the province.
It's great.
It's amazing what kind of experience you can get and where it can lead you.
So the candidate for Ward 11, Mike Bleskie, what are you finding? What are some of the issues that you think are going to have to be addressed? Whether you've got positions or answers on them, I mean, feel free to share them, but what seem to be coming to the forefront?
Well, I just wanted to pay special attention to an issue that's been coming up over the past few weeks, and I believe that it should be somewhere on the council table tomorrow evening, and that would be the issue of 2nd Avenue. Now, for those that don't live in
April 29th, they're dealing with, okay, yeah.
Now, for those people that don't live around the area, 2nd Avenue is sort of a main connection between the Kingsway and Bancroft Drive over by Cambrian Ford, and the idea was that there needed to be infrastructure upgrades to that street. It's been a long time coming. The amount of residential growth in the neighborhood has definitely grown significantly, and we've seen some needed changes, such as the open culverts that are on the street. Now, funding was announced by the city to redevelop 2nd Avenue from Donna Drive, which is around where Boston Pizza is,
Okay.
down to Kenwood, which is around the Birkdale Village residences. And so far it's been a very interesting experience, considering that the input coming from the community has been very vocal as compared to some other projects. The original proposal consisted of 5 lanes of traffic and also involve no bicycle lanes.
So currently,
When-
currently is what is there, 2 or 3?
There's 3 lanes three lanes from Donna, and then there's a bend heading towards Scarlet Drive, and in that bend it reduces down to 2 lanes.
Okay, so there's gonna be a huge
It'll
traffic flow.
It'll be a change for sure, and there's different schools of thought. I've been involved with the Community Action Network, and what the Community Action Network has been calling for is 3 lanes of traffic all through the project area, and the city has called for now 5 lanes from Donna to Scarlet, and then 3 lanes for the rest of the project area. The first consultation that went on, and there was a big issue over bike lanes, and the fact that there were no bike lanes built into this artery, which would connect Minnow Lake to New Sudbury with bike access, basically. And at this point in time, the city has thankfully, listened to the input from the community and built in bike lanes, but there's still the issue of 5 lanes. Now, talking to John Lindsay, who's been on this program before,
Okay.
he feels very strongly about the 5 lanes coming in, and would rather see 3 lanes. I myself am of the same belief that there's no real need for such a wide amount of traffic, and I worry about the bottlenecking that would take place between Scarlet, where it shortens to 3 lanes, and to Kenwood, which would reduce to 2 lanes, and then the short amount of time that it would take for you to merge. That's my main issue with the project right now. But at this point, the city's put a lot of work into this project, and I trust that if they're very firm with this decision for 5 lanes, it could be workable. There are some things that can be done as ways to calm traffic, and keep the flow going, which is the entire point of the project, is to make sure that traffic is no longer bottlenecking. But there's still a lot of conversations going on, the most recent being a roundabout being built at the corner of 2nd Avenue and Scarlet, where the access to the dog park and the cemetery would be built. Now that is something that the CAN is proposing, and based on my conversations with the residents that live on Scarlet, as well as Camelot and on Greenbrier, there is quite a bit of skepticism towards a roundabout.
Yeah, I was gonna say that would generate a lot of conversation.
It has so far. So that conversation's going through right now. I don't really see a roundabout as being a feasible option for Scarlet. I'm not completely anti-roundabout. It's just that for Scarlet, it's a very impractical option, and there are a number of reasons that have been stated to me by the residents in the area of why they would rather not see a roundabout. But John is certainly putting the case forward, and so are other people, and I would love to see some more open conversation continue on that, just to see the firm stance of people in the neighborhood that are actually going to be using that intersection on a daily basis.
So that is one issue in that one ward that is pretty significant in terms of the people who are there, and in terms of connecting the city, because it's a route that's going to be used.
Absolutely, and there have been 2 sort of consultation sessions that have gone on about this project. They've taken place at Adamsville Playground. I know though that there was a lot of concern about the lack of time to sort of really talk about the project before there were proposals put forward. And that's going to be an issue with a lot of projects that go on in Greater Sudbury. the city will have to do their own homework and present it to the citizens, and citizens will have to be able to take a long, hard look at what's going on and, you know, say what they really feel about what they want in their community. Because in the end, they are the residents that live there. They know what is best for their everyday life in terms of traffic and accessing their roads, in terms of the services that they're receiving, etc.
I can't remember who it was that mentioned it on one of our recent shows, but somebody said that, and I'm almost positive it was Jim Gordon who used to say this, but he used to give advice that you have to really listen to the silent majority when you're making decisions on council, and it's one of the challenges, because when you hold the public meetings, the people who actually come out to the public meeting, you know, are coming out because they have they're motivated to come out to the meeting, and in many cases it's not a lot of people that come out.
Which is why you need to actively seek out and talk to people on your own time.
How do you do that? Just are there things that you've already started to do to try and put that in place?
Knocking on doors, chatting to my neighbors, those sorts of things, making calls here and there. Obviously, I'm going to be picking up that process across the entire ward, but certainly in hotspots where there have been issues, you know, that takes precedence.
Are people receptive when you ask them for their opinions?
Sometimes. It can, you know, it's always varying on what a person feels about politics in general. When people actually realize, though, you're trying to discuss issues rather than, you know, why you should vote for me, I think the tone changes a little bit, and that certainly helps the process. But it's the only way that you're going to get the people that are in that silent majority to engage and to provide their input.
And I think that's it becomes a real concern for a council where you've got 12 people representing wards and one person who is overseeing everybody and not coming from any particular ward, but they do live in a ward. And so you've got 13 people who have to consider the needs of 13 different or 12 different areas. And that issue on the construction on 2nd Avenue is a huge issue, and yet it's not.
It's localized to one little space, so you have to be able to really talk to the other councillors and plead your case, or else you're not going to be getting the support that you need. And that's what happens in a system where it's purely based on geographical location. You know, you're going to have people saying, well, you know, if you back this proposal from me, you know, I'll keep an eye out for projects that are in your area. I don't know if that happens right now at the council table. I'm not a mind reader, but you know, you open the doors for that to happen. So you have to really be careful.
And I'm sensing from the way you're being very tactful about this that you don't believe that that's how we should be making decisions at council. We should be making decisions.
I think that there needs to be a process where we can review our current system. And I know we discussed this last time, but I think it would be good to bring it up again, was the whole idea that, you know, with a hybrid system, you do have people that are, you know, watching out for the entire city, and they don't have a very localized agenda, but at the same time you will have people that are in your area, that are defending your projects, that are defending what you need, and you can go to your at-large councillor or your ward councillor and take both approaches, so that way, you know, you can feel better represented.
I kind of like the idea of defending the process as opposed to defending the decision. And in terms of what you're going through in 2nd Avenue, I think that if the other 12 people casting votes can sit back and say they went through the right process, they got the community consultation, the councillor who is in the area has indicated that he explored all of the options and did communicate with not just the people who came out to the public session, and at the end of the day, the recommendation is being made, then I think if you defend the process, you have to get away from, well, I'll vote for you if you vote for me next time, and just say, you know what, you did the process right, and that, when it comes down to deciding on a project in my ward, I'm gonna follow the same process, and hopefully everybody will say you followed the process.
It's about due diligence for sure, and you know, once you've come to a decision, it's sort of a matter of providing a united front, and that was an important concept that I learned, which was, you know, once a decision has been made and the majority have made that commitment, everybody will, you know, back up that process so that it's successful.
Yeah, you don't undermine it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and that's a good thing. That's a very interesting, it's a very interesting process. It's not finished yet.
No.
But
Well, I mean, you just have to take one look at the council votes that have gone on in the past, where you've had two tie votes in a row where a motion has been lost. You've had cases where a councillor has voted for and then against the same motion. There's a little bit of indecision, there's a little bit of disagreement, and all of that mixes together to form this I don't know what you would call it, a stew of defeat.
I kind of like the idea, though, that some councillors are not afraid to vote differently when they get different information, and I'm hoping that when you make if I make a decision on one meeting and I get new information in the next meeting, I hope I'm not afraid to change my vote.
Exactly. You can't you know, hold on to a decision that is no longer relevant to the conversation.
Right. Just because people are going to say, you change your vote, you change your mind. Well, no, I changed my mind because there's new information.
It's common sense.
Yeah,
it really is.
Yeah, so it's good. You've had that experience. Very interesting. What any other big issues? I know from a generational standpoint, the demographics, and I mentioned this with our last guest, Ty Budd, that I admire David Foote and his Boom, Bust and Echo book. And when you take a look at our demographics in Sudbury, we have a high number of people who are in their early parent generation. They're basically the children of the baby boomers, and you've got the baby boomers. And both of them have such different needs in terms of recreation and
it covers the entire, you know, spectrum of services.
Right.
And even like with my generation where we haven't settled yet. And what I want to see is, you know, we should be able to invest in programs that are going to be able to bridge the gap, and that's something that I'm very proud of promoting. For example, I take a look at the doctor recruitment strategy that the city has pursued over the past several years, and thanks to the School of Medicine that has been built here at Laurentian, and based on the amount of money that we've been able to put into the program, we've actually met our target of recruiting doctors to set up their practices here in Greater Sudbury and area, so that way the people that are aging and reaching, you know, past retirement age are able to see a doctor and not have to wait on a waiting list for a doctor or wait, you know, 3 months for an appointment. So that's something that I want to expand. So when you take a look at our aging population, you know, an average age, I think the last census said 48. You take a look at that population, they will have different needs in terms of the medical services that they need, in terms of hospice care, mobility care, and if we were able to expand the program offering to those kinds of workers, so social workers and you know, hospice workers, mobility specialists, and keep them in Sudbury where they are contributing to the needs of the older population in Sudbury, then we're creating jobs for young people, which is one of the biggest needs these days, and then we're providing the services that are most essential for our seniors.
Right.
That's just one kind of strategy for matching needs and creating that kind of relationship.
Right.
So building a new healthcare economy here in Sudbury, I can see, an entire generation not having to worry about their jobs and worrying about, how are they going to work.
Or having their needs met.
Absolutely.
No, it's good, it's a good, and quite often when you are sitting around a council table and you've got a lot of different perspectives, we have that perspective, but we've gotta take care of the needs of our seniors. And coming in from another generational point of view, saying, well, okay, then let's do that, but at the same time, let's promote this kind of an industry, which will take care of the needs of the young people starting out too. It makes sense when we take a look at a long-term vision.
And that's where your job creation comes into play when you're really looking at what kind of jobs you want to recruit and what kind of infrastructure you're building. You keep everybody in mind, not just the young people or a certain industry in mind. We've been a mining town since the beginning. And the ability for us to really adapt and become a lot more mobile in terms of our job offerings, it has paid dividends. We no longer look at Sudbury as we did in, say, 1978, where a labor disruption could practically shut down the entire city. We came to the labor disruption that happened with Vale just a few years ago, and you could see that the impact on the city, although it was significant, it certainly was not the same kind of impact that you would have had in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. So the ability to have a diverse, job offering for all ages, it builds communities. It really does.
Yeah. No, it absolutely. Interesting that we're talking about some pretty long-term vision structures and initiatives. These are not things that will end with the next council.
Oh,
The kind of things that you're talking about are very long-term.
It can't.
No.
You need to be able to have the leadership to not only pursue the short-term strategies, but also the long-term ones. And that's been something where Sudbury has been lacking.
Yeah.
We haven't had the political or emotional will to pursue long-term projects that are going to benefit our community, and really prioritize the projects that we want. We come up with 20 different ideas that we want to pursue, and none of them come to fruition because there's not enough time invested in a project, or there's just not enough will because there's so much going on, both in the short term and the long term. So picking and choosing our battles are going to be important. So that includes a long-term infrastructure plan to make sure that our roads are finally, put to rest.
Good luck with that. If you got the answer to that one,
that's the $1 million question.
Let's go around the country.
And that's why it's a long-term discussion. But coming up with stuff for healthcare and infrastructure, a taxation strategy, our development strategies such as the downtown master plan, as well as the city's master plan. If you can prioritize what things you want to see in there, whether it be a convention center with an OHL arena, and focus on that rather than building new major arterial roads, you can go places.
It's going to be interesting. This whole convention center, obviously, it's coming up again. It's not something that's ever going to die.
Well, the Synergy project, the Sudbury Synergy project, is working hard on it, and I'm really happy with the progress that they've made so far. They discussed the new private-public partnerships that they've come up with. They're looking at about 60 community partners right now that they want to work with in order to get this thing built, because you cannot depend solely on municipal or government funding for these projects anymore.
No.
It has to come from more than one source. So for them to be upfront and say, we want to build with private partners involved, it's a good thing, because then that means, you know, that provides the impetus for other projects to do the same.
And I think that's probably the way it has to go.
It has to.
We've